Harry Garside became the first Australian Olympic boxing medalist in more than 3 decades, winning a bronze at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021. He's delayed his professional boxing career to chase an Australian first Olympic gold in boxing at the Paris Olympics in 2024, having previously won gold at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. Harry is a great leader and role model for young males in particular, comfortably wearing nail polish, as he is today, in his Olympic campaign and openly leading the conversation on gender stereotypes and the importance of masculine and feminine energy in all of us. Harry, it's a great pleasure to meet you. It's inspiring to see what you've done. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me on, Das.
Great to see you. You dedicated yourself to doing something no Australian has ever done before. That's Olympic gold in boxing. Can you see yourself on the top of the podium?
It's so interesting because prior to the last Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, visualization is a massive part of what athletes do and many high performers do. And I could always visualize myself on the podium, but I can never see myself in the middle. And it is a great feeling to visualize myself now. I've been doing it for the last few months and I can see myself in the middle. And I'm sure over the next few months, there'll be times where I don't see it, but a massive portion of my time now, I can see myself in the middle of the podium, which is a nice feeling.
That's fascinating to me, even with all the preparation, and bronze is an extraordinary achievement, something that has been incredibly hard to come by. But somewhere in your mind, you think there was a hurdle that stopped you from going that extra bit?
Yeah, I've always thought in my life that I've had this inferiority complex, and I think it's not what's actually true in your life; it's the stories that you believe, right? And I believe that for a massive portion of my life, that I'm not good enough, and I think that played out when it come to the Tokyo Olympics. And I think there was something inside of me that thought that I couldn't beat Andy Cruz Gomez, the Cuban who I lost to in the semi-final, and I think that's why I couldn't see myself in the middle of the podium. And it's nice, I guess, now to do the work since 2021 and to be in the position I am now, and I guess have a bit more self-confidence and have a stronger relationship with self, which is nice.
And Harry, I understand the work started for you as a 16-year-old as part of the Reach Foundation, which is an incredible legacy. The great Jimmy Steins, who are fortunate enough to play against and spend a lot of time. One of the most inspirational people that I've ever met, Jimmy. And I know he would be incredibly proud of you, the person you are and the way you handle yourself. Did you ever meet Jimmy, and can you tell us about what Reach did for you?
No, unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to meet, but his legacy lives on so strong in Reach, and to the impact that he had on my life personally and the impact that I've seen that it has had on many young people is honestly so profound. I think the organisation and organisations like that are so powerful because I think you catch a kid at the right moment, right time, you can change their life for the better, and that's what organisations like Reach do. And I'm so grateful that they met me, and I always say this, but I wouldn't be the man that I am now if it wasn't for them.
Well, you're living, breathing proof of it for me, Harry. I'm blown away. I'm sitting across from a 26-year-old young man who's got what I think is an incredible sense of self, and you can express that in ways that most of us aren't comfortable with. You're in the most alpha of male sports. Boxing's the ultimate combat sport for me, and I that much respect for anyone who gets in the ring. But at the same time, as I said in the intro, you're comfortable wearing your nail polish, you're comfortable putting on a skirt, and that wisdom that you've got around expressing what masculine and feminine energy is. I'm 48. Most of us don't have any idea of ourselves still at this age. How did you get that sense of self so young?
Yeah, I've always been really curious, and I guess I've always asked, I think it's the high-performing nature of being an athlete. I'm sure you realise this in your AFL career, right? Like, you're always asking more of yourself, always reflecting on self and your performance so you can be better. And I know being in an individual sport, I'm always searching myself for more answers. And I guess that has also transitioned into other parts of my life, which is amazing, right? So through the help of Reach and my sporting career, just always asking myself more, being curious, wanting to grow, wanting to be better, wanting to discover more. And I realize that I'm searching for the edge, I'm searching for the answers, and I hope I never find them because it will just keep me searching.
And I love that, Harry. Again, it's wisdom that a lot don't get. The Japanese talk about constant, never-ending self-improvement. The people I see are the 80-year-olds that are on the path of still learning and curious. That word, I'll ask you about curiosity a bit across this podcast. But I love this quote from you. You said, and I'll get it hopefully right, I'm a boxer with a mullet and tattoos who's a plumber who does ballet. I hope a young person sees this and thinks I can be whatever I want to be. That is incredibly inspiring, Harry. You must be proud of that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I truly believe that every human has that inside of them. We have things that coexist, and we have things that we like one thing and then we don't like another thing, and it's actually totally fine to have that. And that's the most beautiful, I believe, the most beautiful thing about being human is you can have conflicting interests inside yourself. And I think we often, it's hardwired in us, but we like to stereotype, we like to generalize because it's easier for our brain. I get that, but it's to like think that someone does this job, so that must mean they act like this. It's like, I don't think that's true, right? We're so complex and unique and beautiful, and you can do a job like this, but then also be very fascinated in history or the performance arts. Like, that's totally fine too. And I'm really grateful that I guess I have that mindset of like just expressing and exploring whatever comes up. And in 10 years' time, I could be interested in something that I have no interest in right now, and that's totally fine too.
And we're all weird, aren't we? When you think about it, we're all strange. You know, you just got a courage to express that more. If you delve into everyone's private life, there's strange stuff going on for all of us, and we, you know, some people have their deepest, darkest secrets. When you say them out loud, it sort of takes the myth out of it, doesn't it? It's like discrimination or anything. It's strange. Why would you discriminate against someone because of their sexual preference or because they wear nail polish? Or it's bizarre when you think about it, but it's caused so much hatred. You seem to be able to tread that better than almost anyone I've seen.
Thank you. I find it really, I guess for some of the stuff that I do, I guess being in a super masculine, male-dominated sport like boxing, I cop a lot of criticism for wearing the nail polish or being in dresses sometimes and stuff like that. And
does it ever get you?
oh, there is, mate. I'm human, right? There is times where you're writing back and commenting, it's just stuff you, mate. But then you delete and you think, mate, don't just you know, it's okay. It's part of it. It's part of the nature. But I actually think what is actually playing out for those people who write those comments or who try and bring people down, it shows where they're not free in their own life and where there is something internal, whether they know it or not. But there's something internal where they look at me and go, he's free to express himself however he sees fit. I want to do that, but I can't because I'm so scared of other people's opinions. I'm so scared of what people might think of me. I'm so scared of my dad's criticism or my partner's criticism, my friend's criticism if I did this or did something different. So they don't. They stay in line and they critique people, right? And that's all I think it is. I'm just trying more people to explore themselves, and whatever comes out, that's fine, right? As long as you're not hurting anyone else. Like, that's all that matters. Like, life is made to enjoy and experience things and do wild things.
And you walk into a room, Aaron, you've got joy, you know, about you. You've got an energy about you that makes you smile sitting across from you here today. And I think you're right, isn't it? When we're judging someone else, and we all do it, I'm guilty of it all the time, where you go, oh, that person really shits me. And, you know, because X, Y, I don't like that about the behaviour. But if I stop and think, I go, shit, there's a bit of me in that. There's a bit of what I'm not good at, and I'm reflecting that on them. Is that part of how you see it as well?
I always see that with my dad, right? Me and my dad are so similar, and I love him to bits. But there's often times where I will judge or criticize internally. Sometimes I'll let him know too, and I think that's because it's where I'm not free in my own life and the things that I'm trying to work on myself. And I see that in my dad, and I'm sure that happens on a large scale as well in society.
And Harry, life always throws a hand grenade, no matter what is coming along, and we then get the chance to do it. You get off a plane from South Africa, returning from shooting a reality TV show. You land in Sydney, you get arrested at the airport. You've since been cleared of all the charges. Can you explain just how tough that was at the time?
For me personally, that was the hardest period of my life. I always do like a little recap at the end of the year, especially going into December. I view all my memories from the year and my photos, and I was viewing some videos that I made, especially in the 3 weeks post, I guess, my arrest, when I was going through the process and the charges hadn't been dropped. And some of the videos were so confronting, just seeing how low and flat, and I'd never experienced anything that serious in my life. And the voices inside my head, like, words will truly never articulate what was going on, right? But it's in those moments where you find out who you are, right? It's in those moments. It's in those, you never want tough times when you're in them, but like, now that I'm through it, I'm so grateful that happened.
And so when you look back on that, you know, you get into a dark space, and, you know, I suppose you find out who your friends are pretty quickly, don't you, in that situation as well? Did that happen? Did you find out people deserted you at your toughest moment?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's the world we live in right now too, right? This cancel culture, and it's so interesting. There was brands who backed me prior to that, and there was podcast, one of my favorite podcast shows, deleted the episode, and I was friends with the people, right? And I'm thinking, Like none of them messaged me, none of them checked in, none of them organizations that they have all these, or brands, sorry, that were backing me. They have all these things about supporting your bros, and they support Movember and do stuff like that, and they don't check in on you when you're going through tough times. It's like you realize that there's a lot of people who do this stuff just to make themselves look like they have integrity and look like they're keeping up like everyone else. They're good brands and good people, but when push comes to shove, I guess you realize who's real. And someone who I'll talk so highly of, the girls from Swiss Multivitamins and Hamish McLaughlin. He stood by me. We recorded something earlier in the year, and when I went through that, apparently his producers called him and said, "What are we going to do about Harry? We're going to release the episode." And he said, "I'm going to stand by him," and I'll always love Hamish McLaughlin for that, because he had no loyalty to me, but he showed his true colours and showed the type of man that he is.
It's great to hear. A great friend of mine I worked with on the weekend. Not surprised at all, and I think, there's scar tissue that's left, Harry, from those events. I mean, it's people read the headlines, they don't then see cleared of all charges. Do you feel like that's just part of what happens in you? Can you move on completely from something like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'll probably notice the scars the most when I probably date again. That's the area where absolutely there's a few wounds that I'll probably have to address when that time comes. When it comes to like, of course, I'll always, I guess, hold something inside. Like we're all like, maybe this is just me, but we're all like a little bit spiteful or resentful for, I guess, things that happen to us. But you realize who's real and you realize who's not, right? And then my circle got smaller this year, and I guess I'm grateful for that too. Like I'm at the age now, just turned 26 this year, and I think you start realizing that life's not about having heaps of friends; it's about having quality friends, and I'm really grateful for that.
And to me, you're a great beacon of what's a huge challenge for the world at the moment. It feels like there's a mental health epidemic now, young anxiety, depression, eating disorders at record numbers. And, tragically, that's the case. But it seems like you're this great leader for the generation of living an authentic life. What's your advice to young people who are maybe struggling a little bit?
It's a really interesting thing. I think I always change my answer on this. And I think right now I'm a firm believer that we often make promises with ourselves, and I can reflect on my life when I have been my lowest. It's when I don't uphold those promises. And you get to the point where you stop making the promises, and then you feel that flat about yourself because you don't even believe that you have your own word. But the times that I feel the best about myself is when I make those little promises and I uphold them consistently for a period of time. And the times where I felt the best, obviously prior to comp, is when you're training every day and you're doing all these things. The 1% is outside of training too. And you're upholding that word and being the person that you say you are consistently for an amount of time. And I feel like I'm strong and I'm stable and I'm secure. And I feel like life will often throw things that are out of our control that can derail us. But when I'm strong and stable and secure in myself because I've upheld my word, I feel like I can attack those way better.
So what's an example of a promise that you give to yourself that you keep that works for you?
When I am my flattest, the one thing I do the next day is fast for 24 hours. Because it's actually quite a challenging thing, right? We all love to eat, especially in Western civilization. We love to eat.
A lot of emotional eating too when you're struggling.
Absolutely. And I guess even if it isn't as extreme as fasting, picking one thing that you're going to achieve tomorrow, it could be mowing the lawns, it could be cleaning your house, and make sure you achieve it. And then just like sit in it for a period of time, like that feeling of positivity that you did what you said you were going to do, and you upheld the look and the man in the mirror. And I think that is so important. And little things that I try and do. I'm on a bit of a down period at the moment, as I just competed last week. But I've made a deal with myself between now and the Olympics. I'm going to train every single day between now and the Olympics. And on days off, we're supposed to have days off as athletes. They'll just be like a little 3 or 5K run, just nice and cruisy. But that is a deal that I've made with myself. I'm on my down period, but I have to train every day between now and the Olympics.
And the research on fasting is fascinating too. What it does. Read a lot about it. Ramadan and a lot of those religious times where people do fast have got a lot of science and thousands of years of history. It's a sort of a lost art, isn't it, in some ways, that the day off you give your body a rest. You don't die in a day. You can go without food for a long time, actually, can't you? And you find that 24 hours just gives you strength of mind that, one, you can have the discipline to do it, and two, it just gives your body a reset as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, there is scientific benefits, but I do it more so for having my word and I guess having a stronger sense of self. And it's a great feeling, I guess, to I guess take back control of your word. And there's so much in our life that I think is out of our control, and sometimes we can be living our life and be dictated by, I don't know, by a job or by other people telling us what to do with our lives. But when we can take back a little bit of control, I think that's when we feel our best.
A guy called Mike Dunlap was on this podcast. He coached the Charlotte Hornets, Michael Jordan's team, legendary coach in the world of basketball. And he talks about the miracle morning, which is actually a book, and the freedom in routine and the freedom of silence and affirmation and reading and a little bit of writing and visualization in the process of a day. And I think a lot of people think freedom is being able to do nothing. They talk about, and I agree too, so when you commit to do something and you show up for yourself, it's sounds like you've got that wisdom pretty comfortably. I was thinking when I was reading all your stuff, Harry, in preparation for this, and I was taken by it. I loved listening to your words and how you've spoken about it. And I was thinking about Scott Galloway. I'm not sure if you've seen his work. He's an American academic, a really intelligent voice on what he sees as the struggles for young men, and talking, that young males are twice as likely to overdose, 3.5 times more likely to suicide, 9 times more likely to be in prison in the US. And he describes the most dangerous person in the world, he says, is a broke, alone young male, and he thinks we're producing millions of them around the world because of what I think you're an expert in. We males don't know how to be masculine or how to be more feminine. We're stuck, the young generation, in what are we actually supposed to be? How do you think about all that?
I think that's one of the most important topics over the next 5 years. I think there's a war on masculinity right now. And I think I hate the term toxic masculinity. It does my head in because it isn't toxic to be masculine. It's needed. It is so needed. And it's absolutely, there is negative parts of cultures and societal norms or, stuff like that. Absolutely. But being masculine, being strong, being stable, and I guess I can only speak from my experience, but I can't deny that there is something inside of me that this masculine energy that wants to be secure, safe, and be the protector and provider of the people around me and I'm sure you feel that. You've got a family. I'm sure you feel that, right? That is the pure masculine energy. And that is beautiful and that is needed. And society needs that to balance it out. It also needs a beautiful feminine energy too, right? And they need the nurture, the nature to be the receiver. They need that, right? And I think right now there's like a little war on masculinity, and it's really heartbreaking to see because I think young men especially, they can't help at the age of 14 that they've got this energy, this frequency, this rambunctious natures, and they can't help that, right? And then they're being told to sit down, be quiet, don't act like that, that's wrong. So what do? They suppress it, and it comes out in ugly ways. And then someone like Andrew Tate comes out and sort of gives them a voice. So of course they're going to follow him. It's because everyone's telling them they can't act like that. It's like, I think masculinity is beautiful, but it's beautiful when you learn to control it. And that's why I think combat sport is beautiful. It really is, because it gives not just young men, but young people the ability to feel confident in their own body and to feel secure in their own body and to feel like if anything bad happened around them, they would be safe enough in that to take care of themselves and people around them. But when you keep emasculating people, I reckon it comes out in really ugly ways, personally.
Yeah, well said, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's almost cancel culture kicks in on this. If you're even starting to prosecute that case now, it's a very sensitive thing. But you're right, someone's going to break in the door tonight and charge the family. And I hope the masculine energy kicks in. I'm sure, it's pretty invaluable then, isn't it? You got a family of 4, you want that aggression to be there. You don't want to hide away from that. And you're right, as someone like an Andrew Tate who captures young men, but underneath it is this misogynistic message and does take it into a path that is really unhelpful. On the surface, you can see why it's captivating for young men because they're looking for leadership. They're looking for it. I suggest they go to Harry Garside maybe more than Andrew Tate. I had a brilliant author, Steve Biddulph, on this podcast as well. Harry, Raising Boys has sold 4 million copies. One of the legends of parenting, stage you're not at yet, but a globally renowned author. And he talks about being in auditoriums, or he spoke to me in this podcast about of thousands and thousands of women. He's really sought after, and a lot of mums want to go and talk about raising boys and raising girls. And then he started asking the question he was saying to me in these audience, well, what do you want from a man? It's all these, what do you actually want? And he was saying, like, the words come out really, really quickly. And it starts with, first of all, they say, I want, Tom Cruise or Harry Garside because the good-looking rooster. And he said, once you get through all that, then they start going, hey, I want a bloke who has a crack. I want a guy who's got some strength. I want him to have a go. I don't want a guy soft, So there's all these sort of words he writes on the whiteboard. But then on the other side, he said, but I also want him to be kind. And I also want him to care a little bit. I want him to be a good dad. I want him to be empathetic. And he sums it up and says, really what you're after is males to have backbone and heart. And I think it's a beautiful way to describe, I think, what you're saying as well. You don't want to lose the backbone, but maybe if we bring more heart into it for males who are in good shape.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's someone who is secure enough in their energy that if I can swear shit it was going to hit the fan, they're stable in that, and that they're the people that people turn to in those moments. That's who you want leading the house. That's who you want being the strong, stable person, right? Correct? Right. But then you also want someone who's in control of their emotions. And I think there is a massive portion, and I don't know, I think it's getting better. I'm obviously not in the school system, but like on scale, I believe the feminine energy and females on scale have way better emotional intelligence. It's in them. It's really nice to see. And I think if we can, I guess, teach more men and young boys emotional intelligence, and I guess to be in control of their emotions more often and not let the emotions get the better of them, I think the world would be a better place. And I think when you do that, when you can control your emotions, you can control your actions too.
Yeah, well said. I can, it's pretty helpful being aggressive as an AFL player, playing the role I played. That's almost part of the program. And without it, you don't succeed. But then when you finish, not that helpful sometimes being a parent. You start screaming at your kids and having a beautiful partner to teach you more of that emotional intelligence. That's not appropriate there. You need to learn. It can be learned, isn't it? It's a discussion that needs to be had. And once again, mate, I credit with you. At your age, it's brilliant the way that you're able to describe it so clearly. We say in our world a bit, Harry, in this space, success leaves clues. And I have loved sitting down with different people, from an author of raising boys to a young boxer going to the Olympics. I love the difference. And we start with the idea it's hard to lead someone else unless you have an idea of self-leadership. Do you resonate with the thought of self-leadership?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think being an athlete and I've always been very obsessed with taking control of my life. And I from an early age, I don't know if it's because I'm the youngest, and I guess I had a lot more lenience compared to my brothers. I think my older brother, my parents were a bit more strict on him, and by the time they got to me, they're like, oh, we've just given up. So I think... How
many siblings?
3. I'm youngest of 3 boys. Yeah. And I think when I went to school and teachers tell you what to do and everyone's telling you how to live your life, and I really found that hard, right? Because I'm like, don't tell me like what to do. Even from a young age, I would feel this, right? And I think leadership is standing tall and making the decisions for your life that are needed, and just standing stable and strong in who you are. And if you don't know who you are, challenge yourself and find out who you are, right? And that's a really hard thing to do, but I think that is the most beautiful journey, is trying to find out who you are, especially before you have kids.
There's great studies on firstborn to secondborn to lastborn. Young Max is our youngest of 4, and yeah, I can see a bit of you in him actually. You do run out of gas 4th time round, and you probably parent better because you just you let go more, and I think he's got more emotional intelligence than all of us, young Maxie. So it probably makes sense in some ways. We see people who are really conscious, Harry, in their world of how they positively impact people on a daily basis in what they do. Is that something you think about?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Ben Crow has this beautiful quote, life's biggest truism is life isn't about us as individuals, it's about the impact we can have on others. And I think most people don't realise that until they probably have kids, or they're later on in life. And I've realised that, I guess I've spent most of my life up until the age of 26, probably 23 is when I've noticed this, but 23 years old, I was just so focused on myself and my goals, and everything was so selfish and self-focused and individualized. And I guess I realized at 23 that like life isn't about me, it's about the impact we can have, right? And I guess I'm trying my best to step more into that space, especially leading after sport. Being an athlete, I'm sure you can vouch to this too. It's very selfish. You focus a lot on your performance and what you're doing and your training sessions, and things have to be right for you so you can perform. But at the same time, I have realized that's actually not that fulfilling anymore. I'm ready to step into another space, especially post the Olympics next year.
Yeah, and again, I marvel at it at 23 years of age to have that. And you're probably right. The trend is we probably should be thinking about ourselves at that age in lots of ways. So for you to get there so quickly is admirable. Post Olympics, can I ask you what the thoughts are? Have you got?
Yeah, I really want to step into. So there's multiple things. Like I won't deny that money buys freedom. So I come from no money. So I want to make sure I change the stars for my family. I feel like I'm sitting on a lottery ticket right now, and I'm not too much of a pussy to cash it in. I'm cashing it in, and I'm going to try and start a business of some sort that I guess is going to impact people on scale. And then there'll be a little passion project, I guess, when I'm financially stable enough to help young people. And I think combat sport is a massive part of my experience, but I would love to maybe start something similar to Jimmy Steins' foundation, Reach, but it'll be more, as I said, around combat sport as well.
Do you turn pro?
Yeah, I think up until the age of 30, I'll continue boxing, but also I think about head trauma and you see those old boxers who box for too long and they can't talk, and I love talking and I love thinking and I love stuff like that. And I also know that although my sporting career is really important to me right now, being a dad is way more important.
I love it. Harry, inspiring as always. Creating and sharing a vision in what you do. You've got a clear goal around what you want to achieve in Paris very shortly. With your extended team, have you got a clear way about, when you want to achieve something, how you go about creating and sharing it?
Yeah, a big thing I think I focused on prior to Tokyo was just doing the 1%ers. So I couldn't throw my left hand. Not many people knew this. I couldn't throw my left hand for 3 months prior to the Olympics, the last Olympics, which was so frustrating. And then the last month, so I injured it. I had to get surgery post-Olympics.
And you're a southpaw, so your left paw is your dominant hand, yeah.
But the last month I had a cortisone and I could throw it. So I got my distance, but I think because of that, I had to focus on all the 1%ers to make sure that outside of training, I'm being the best mentally. Because a lot of sport is is it Novak Djokovic has this quote, the difference between the first ranked player and the 100th ranked player is what's between their ears. And I completely agree. If you can focus on your mind and be the best version of yourself, then 90% of the problems are done. You also need to prepare and train hard, but that also is mindset as well. So between now and July next year, I'll just be focusing on being the best version of me and showing up to every session and just keep sort of grinding what I've been doing, and of course picking up new things on the way as well.
And it makes sense, doesn't it? You're in a weight division where weight's the same and body types are very marginal, and strength and power, they're margins, aren't they? I mean, you want to train at the highest level in any sport you do, but the gains are all between the ears, really, aren't they, when you think about it?
100%. When you really think about it, it's like, say in tennis, there's a guy who has a great serve, but then the other guy's backhand's better, and they sort of even each other out. Of course, there is anomalies like Kelly Slater or Serena Williams, or people who are the top of their craft, right? There is anomalies like that, but I truly believe that 99.9% of the athletes who I'll be competing at the Olympics will be very, very similar to me.
Yeah, the difference will be you preparing the way that you are in your mind, which makes sense. Curiosity, I've already heard you talk about it, Aaron. We see that's a word that comes up all the time with people that have success like you do, and through curiosity, they're constantly getting better. How does curiosity play out for you?
I've always been curious for me, and I think by nature, every young person is curious, right? Because they're experiencing the world for the first time. And I just remember spending hours looking up at sitting on the trampoline, looking up at the sky, or being in the car, creating games. That imagination's running rampant. And that's curiosity, I believe, at its finest. And I don't think I've ever lost it. And I'm curious about myself, my actions. I'm curious about my performance so I can get better. And I think when you're curious about yourself and you're curious about the world, it takes away judgment, which is the most important thing, because it's like when I'm curious about, I guess, let's say someone close to me like my dad or my friend, why they made that decision or why I made that decision. When I'm curious, it takes away the judgment. I just go, oh, that's interesting, rather than being like, that's critical. And I've found curiosity to be the best thing, I think, for myself to show up as a better person, rather than judging myself. And that's only been really strong, I guess, the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, it's brilliant. You're right. You listen to a 4 or 5-year-old, they ask every question that you could. Yeah. And some of us, we train it out as parents, don't we? We get over it and yeah, if you can hang on to it the way that you have, and I can see that's so alive and well in you, it's a great skill. You're a great communicator, and we see people communicating with clarity on all your platforms. You've got incredibly articulate way about you. Is that something you've worked on? How you get your message across?
Yeah, I've been asked this before, and I don't know any different, right? Yeah, so it's like I don't particularly like review myself as a good communicator. It's just like this is just I have always just been curious, and I love having deep conversations because I want to find out the answers, but I hope I never find them. Like that's the thing. I'm searching for them, but I hope I never find them. And
Is your dad speak the same way? Is it because you generally get your words out in a way that's pretty profound? Was there a role model for that, or you were just the third born and you found your way?
I truly, me and my family, I guess I'm really grateful, as we mentioned before, being the youngest. My parents, don't get me wrong, they're my parents, but a lot of my life, they felt like my friends. So they would treat me like an adult from an early age, which I'm really grateful for. They would have conversations with me that I guess are deep. And like I remember doing stuff 13, 14 years old that no 13, 14-year-old should be doing, right? But I guess it's because my parents treated me like an adult, which was really nice. And I guess I saw something on Instagram, and so I go off on little tangents, but I saw something on Instagram, and when I think about it logically, it sounds right. But what this person was saying was, when humans go through puberty, there is this natural thing that happens as animals that we're supposed to break away from the tribe and create something of our own, create the identity, family, community of our own. And you probably realize this when you've got kids. They go through this rebellious stage, most of us do. And it's because our society keeps people trapped, especially young people trapped until they're 20, 21, and then they can leave home. And it's like there is something that goes on that like at that age they're supposed to explore. And I'm really grateful that I guess at a young age my parents gave me the freedom to step into my identity and I guess build that identity and treat me like an adult at an early age.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? We've lost that thousands of years of history and sophistication and the rites of passage for young men. Our Indigenous culture here in Australia, incredibly sophisticated around, what secret men's business means for young, and then your family are left behind and you go off with the elders and you become a man and modern society's lost its way in that big time, hasn't it? It's and it just causes pain, doesn't it? We try and suppress young. It's hard in your house. Your teenager stops talking to you, and parents, we panic. We think, oh shit, something's wrong. It's like they're doing, as you said, biologically what they should be doing, but we're not educated on how to handle it. How important's collaboration been for you, Harry, in your world?
Yeah, it's huge. I think I'm so grateful that over the years I've just met so many amazing people who, and I truly, I'm a firm believer. I'm not a religious man, but I guess I surrender to the universe. I often say the universe has a plan for me, and that's just like saying God has a plan for me. But I'm a firm believer that the universe offers me people and offers me things and just puts things in place for you at the right moment, the right time. The hard times are needed to, and the universe always has a plan for me. And I truly believe that I have met some of the best people in my life, and I've always met them at the right time too, and to form really strong connections in the boxing community and outside of the boxing community. And prime example, I just caught up with someone before. Growing up, I never met anyone who went to university, right? I go to quarantine during COVID up in Darwin. I'm there for 2 weeks. I met this guy, Scott Bradley. He's an absolute legend. Big fan of you. Absolute legend. And he was like quite a successful businessman, and he's someone who I can go to now for ideas and stuff like that, because as I said, I didn't know anyone who went to university. So when it comes to like taxes or anything, I guess business related, I didn't know who to ask, right? But the universe just offers you people at the right time.
And Scott Bradley was just in quarantine, and you befriended him because of the time. And
yeah, we were able to train there, and he saw me training every day. He's like, this guy looks like he's an ex-footy player, and he's like, this guy looks like he can run just like me. So we started training most days, which was the best.
Who's been the greatest leader in your life?
Oh, it's got to be my parents. Yeah, it's to raise, I guess, 3 boys. I was probably the softest one out of the 3. My other brothers were quite rough around the edges. Beautiful people, but rough around the edges. To raise 3 boys with not much money, and to now create a bit of an empire that they've got now. Yeah, by far my parents, and I look up to them every day. which I'm super grateful for.
And how are they, Harry? Because you live your life authentically, and how do they cope with? Hey, your son's wearing nail polish. Your son's wearing a dress today. Do they have their moments, or?
Of course they do. Especially my dad. Just being a tradesman, he's a roof tiler, and I guess on job sites, that culture in being a tradesman is probably a little bit different to other the corporate culture or something like that. And I guess people there say things to me dad sometimes, and I guess I don't know what my dad's beliefs are as well internally, and but I always listen, right? Because I actually think, although I believe in what I stand for, I'm always open to changing my mind, and I think I'm never set in what I believe, and I always try and listen, especially to someone who doesn't have the same opinion as me, and try and understand why they have that opinion, and is that opinion better than mine? And that's really humbling sometimes, because sometimes I'm wrong, and often I'm wrong, right? So I always try and listen. But I think it's hard for my dad sometimes. But at the same time as well, my dad has always backed me and always loved me, and he doesn't really care how I show up in the world.
Brilliant, mate, isn't it? What a great gift to have. And I love it when people immediately go to their parents. It's a gift, isn't it? If that's where you think the best leadership in your life has come from. We're a bit obsessed with this world of collaboration, Harry, and some work we're doing of joining different people around the globe in a space we call Aleda. Has there been anyone you thought, geez, I'd love to collaborate? And you've got lots of great passions. You haven't even spoken about your poetry or your professional, your boxing chance for a gold medal. Has there been someone who thought, God, that's the person I'd love to collaborate with?
Probably you just sparked him, but I've listened to his book, I would say 15 times, Matthew McConaughey. I think his book is amazing, and I've learned so much listening to that book, and every time I listen to it, I pick up something new. But it's so interesting, I guess, as a culture, what we do, we idolize these people. I think about David Goggins or people we idolize these people. When you really think about them as people, it's like David Goggins, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he's got a kid and he's had failed marriages and stuff like that. It's like, is that actually a person that you want to be like? When you really think about it, it's like, absolutely, he's disciplined and he's hardworking and there's things you can take from it. When you really think about them as people, is that the people you really want to be like? And I think we idolize these people, and it's like, what people don't understand, to be successful a lot of the time, they have to, I don't know, cut ties with people and be isolated and stuff like that. And I've felt that myself. But when I think about idols and people I want to be like, I want to be a strong, stable dad. I want to be close to my kids when I'm older. I want my kids to be around, my grandkids to be around. I don't want to be disconnected because I've spent my whole life focusing on myself and my goals. So I guess people who I want to be like are more so people like that.
Yeah, beautifully said. Again, Harry, the old saying, success without fulfillment is the greatest failure. And you're right, isn't it? We often look at financial success and someone who's got, tens of millions of dollars, but is there a gap in all the other things, on your family and your connection and your health, or all those other things you give up if you miss out on that? Well, Harry, I'm inspired by you and everything that you do. We're heading into Paris, and I can see you on top of the podium. I'm not sure that helps, mate, but I can, because I just see the genius in you as a human being. I know that it won't be through lack of preparation and effort, and the whole country's behind you. But more than that, I think you're showing a way that is really important for all of us to understand. Congratulations, mate.
Thanks for having me on, Dar. It's been a pleasure.
Loved it. Brilliant.